started streaming last time.
You're live.
All right. Is it?
It says you're live. I just got a notification.
All right. Ready?
Yep.
Let me do the music and we're good to go. And we should be live. Beers and Buffalo podcast, season 6, episode 25. We got the video up and going. Hopefully it's working. Jeff said he got the notification. We're testing out the new setup here for the basement, trying to live stream this thing. Hopefully it sounds good.
I hope so. Otherwise, we'll just keep testing it until we get it right, because this is the off season for us too. So this is going to be something new for next year, next full season.
Absolutely. So I have a bunch of, we have a bunch of NFL transactions to kind of go through. I thought I would start with the Bills first, and then we could talk about some other big moves throughout the NFL. We'll start from the oldest, I guess. Obviously, Khalil Shakir signed back February 25th, 4-year, $53 million contract extension. Huge for the Bills, in my opinion. Kind of the core and the anchor of the wideout group.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got the highest catch percentage in the NFL with like an 87% or something crazy like that. So it's good to lock down someone that we know Josh can trust if he throws the ball to him.
And then after that, it was just a bunch of kind of internal things going on first before we started making a splash in a free agency. Released punter Sam Martin, created about $2 million of cap space. They signed Terrell Bernard, 4-year, $50 million contract extension, huge. Greg Rousseau, DN, 4-year, $80 million contract extension, huge. Reed Ferguson, our long snapper, 4-year extension. Von Miller released, and Josh Allen, 6-year, $330 million contract extension. So a lot to digest there. Keeping the defense going. I mean, Terrell Bernard, Greg Rousseau, these are kind of core pieces of the defense that I was hoping the Bills would bring back, and they did. So.
Yeah, definitely. You talked about it. Greg Rousseau kind of had a down couple games in the playoffs, but he's shown that he has a lot of potential, and he shows that he's got, the it factor that we need on defense. I still think he's developing. He's going to get better. He's going to learn the NFL system a little bit more too. And then Terrell Bernard he's a dog, man. I'm glad that we locked him up for a couple more years. On top of that, give him his money. He's definitely earned it.
Absolutely. Von Miller leaving the team, RIP. The Von Miller experiment didn't work out as a lot of Bills hoped it would have worked out. I mean, I think the expectations were a little bit high just based off of the name and what he's done in his career, and we were hoping to get kind of the I guess in the prime Von coming to the Bills, but he had the one season and then he was hurt. And then he came back and he wasn't really the same. And you really can't blame a guy because I think he's 34, 6?
He'll be 36
35,
this year.
36, Jesus. So, I mean, when you have an injury when you're that old, it's going to take a toll on your body. It's usually harder to recover and come back at full strength. And it was great to have him around in the locker room. I definitely think that was a positive for a lot of the younger guys on the team. But as far as being an impact player on the field, unfortunately, I think, like I said, that experiment didn't really work out like we planned.
Yeah, definitely. It was a very expensive experience too. Like you said, that first injury, we signed him, I think, in August, got hurt in December, came back the following year, had that super hype video, let's finish the job, whatever, burn it down, whatever it was. That was really cool. And then, he started off, he was really shaky last year or 2 years ago, coming back from that ACL injury. And then this year came out, he wasn't really the focal point. I think that was AJ Epineza, who was the starter over him. He kind of filled in, had some sacks, and then he got suspended for 4 games. And then he was just never the same going forward. So they did cut him, and there were talks of hopefully bringing him back on a cheaper contract, save some money, bring him back. Obviously, that didn't work out because, he did not come back to the Bills. He went to the Broncos.
Right. And then Josh Allen, I mean, probably the biggest signing in the entire NFL here.
Mm-hmm.
6 years, $330 million contract extension, worth every penny in my opinion. We knew this day was coming anyways, and the Bills are currently, and they have been, trying to make some room with the cap space because it's real tight. It's real tight right now.
Yes, it is.
So they needed to make some house cleaning moves here to make way for this big payday for Josh. What do you think about the amount though? You think it's worth it? Do you think we paying him a little bit too much because we are against the wall here with the cap, or is the timing fine? The
timing's fine. I think it's nice to get ahead and lock him down. I think he still had 4 years left in his original contract. They just reworked it, added on a couple extra years. He's now locked into the 2030 season. But I think the money was fine. And what I've actually seen recently is he was talking about it on a different podcast that he actually left money off the table. He could have gotten a little bit more because what he had said, he goes, I'm good. He's like, $5 million more per year wasn't going to make or break, how I'm living. It was, I'm good. I've got a house. I've got a truck. He said he's saying all the right things. He's got a truck. He's got a truck. Of course he does. But he's saying all the right things, and it's nice to see that he's humble enough to be like, yeah. He told his agent, don't back us into a corner when it comes to cap space. He goes, if it means that I got to take a little bit less so we can help build the team, like that's exactly what you want. And that's kind of the Tom Brady effect. That's what Tom Brady was doing in New England for all those years. People think that he took pay cuts. He got his money, but he also did the right thing to help build the team for longevity and sustain the dynasty that they had for 20 years. So I think the Josh Allen contract signing, good timing. It gets ahead of the market as well. So we're not going to see a quarterback jump ahead of him and pay and then be like, well, now we got to go match that, because other than Patrick Mahomes, I don't think there's another quarterback deserving of that contract, the type of money he's getting. Maybe Lamar Jackson, he's got a strong case. Joe Burrow, strong case, but the team's not doing enough. So we'll see. Hopefully, as the cap gets bigger, the cap space goes up throughout the next couple of years, we'll actually get to see how that actually affects what type of signings we can do going forward on top of this year too.
So some other guys he's in front of, Joe Burrow, 275. He's making about the same per year as Josh. Dak Prescott, 240. He's making $5 million more a year, but just based off of the length of the contract. Trevor Lawrence, unbelievable, 275. Again, making the same per year as Josh Allen. Jordan Love, 220. Again, making the same per year as Josh Allen. Right off the bat there. And then Tua is not far behind with 212, making $53 million a year. Tua, Love, Lawrence, you can argue those three right off the bat, nowhere even close to the skill set and the player that Josh Allen is. You can put Joe Burrow in there because I still think Joe Burrow is up there. He's a top 3, top 4 QB. But and then Dak, I mean, the inconsistencies with Dak, when he's on, he looks good. Again, don't think he's worth more than Josh, which they haven't played out to be. But I can see that at least a little bit more justifiable than Lawrence, Jordan, and Tua. Goff's in there at $53 million a year. Herbert's in there at $52 million a year. I mean, there's a bunch of guys clustered here at the top. Lamar's at $52 a year, and Jalen Hurts at $51 a year. All these guys are making $212 plus for their contracts.
Yeah, that's how the quarterback market was a couple of years ago, and when everybody got all these contracts, and we knew eventually it was going to go up. And like I said, it was nice to see the Bills get ahead of the market and basically set it themselves, because now at this point, any quarterback that's going to want an extension, like I said, other than Patrick Mahomes, maybe Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, none of them, they can't go and be like, I want Josh Allen money. You're not doing Josh Allen things. Josh Allen is a unicorn, and we're beyond lucky to have him as a Buffalo Bill. So it's nice to see that, the Bills got ahead and beat the market and set themselves up for a good stretch of years with a very good quarterback.
I agree. Into kind of some new, faces on the team here. The first signing fresh body. Josh Palmer, wide receiver, coming over from the Los Angeles Chargers. I wanted to say the San Diego Chargers for a second. Signed him on March 10th, 3 years, $36 million. Looking at Josh Palmer, I mean, this guy's been kind of like a slot receiver for most of his career, a fill-in guy for injuries since he's been with the Chargers since 2021. Not really a touchdown machine. It's kind of gone down every year since 21. He had 4 in 2021, 3 in 22, 2 in 23, and he had 1 touchdown last year with the Chargers. It kind of makes sense, though, how, Ladd McConkey basically took over that entire offense and became Herbert's new favorite target. But, the guy's pretty consistent. He's been, in the last 3 years, a 500-yard plus receiver. He averages around 15 yards a catch the last couple of years. So, big play guy, a good slot receiver, a good depth piece, which I think is more important to the Bills at this point. And these were all numbers that he put up with Herbert. And now you're going into an upgrade. This is going to be the Josh Allen effect here. He's going to make you look real good, and he's going to inflate those stats for this year. So I think anything that he's done in the past with the Chargers is going to drastically improve this year with the Bills.
Absolutely, and that goes back to why we signed Josh Allen to this deal. Is he makes everybody around him better. He can step in shit and come out smelling like roses, and that's kind of what we do with all of our wide receivers and anybody that comes to play here. I mean, look at Matt Collins. Not to get too far ahead, he gets a test of free agent market, goes and signs a 2-year deal with the Patriots, and he got just under $11 million for guaranteed money. And that's what he made over his entire career. So he doubled his career earnings because of Josh Allen. Joshua Palmer is going to be no different. It's going to be one of those things where I don't think he's a bona fide number one. He's not Justin Jefferson. He's not Jamar Chase. But he's one of those wide receivers that I think he's going to be trustable, and his stats are going to absolutely skyrocket.
Yeah, absolutely. Another guy here, and I can't ever pronounce his last name, Michael Hoyt. Hoyt, yeah, I got it right.
Just think of Hoyt.
3 years, $21 million. Outside linebacker coming over from the Rams. Again, I like this pickup as well. His career with the Rams, I mean, last year combined 56 tackles, 3 sacks. The year before, 81 tackles, 6 sacks. The year before that, 36 tackles, 4.5 sacks. So, kind of averaging around that 4 sacks a year kind of piece there, which is great. The guy can pass rush. I think this is a much needed piece. Again, possibly a depth piece, maybe becomes a starter. He's got some experience. He's been in the league since 21 as well. So a lot of these guys are coming off of these 3-4 year deals, rookie deals, and are becoming free agents is what you're going to see right now. And that's the case here with Michael Hoyt. So extremely excited about this. I'm more excited about our defensive pieces that we're going to be adding this year more so than the offense, because I don't think that's what we needed to concentrate on anyways.
Right.
But
yeah, I agree. And we talked about this last night when you were over. We were missing a Leonard Floyd after he came for the Bills. Mm-hmm. Had a great season, led the team in sacks. And then when he wasn't on the team last year, our defense kind of lacked a little bit. We needed that chess piece that could move around different positions, different areas of the field. And that was, that's what we needed, and that's exactly what Michael Hoyt's going to do. I think he's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I think he's going to fit right into the system, especially with how well Leonard Floyd played a couple of years ago. I think it's so far everything as the news was coming out of what the Bills were doing. I'm just like, boom, makes sense. Boom, makes sense. I'm like, everything that they were doing, I'm just like, I love it. And you're right. We didn't really need to go out and get offensive firepower, because the draft's coming up. We have some guys on the team still. We lost Amari Cooper and Matt Collins, but Joshua Palmer, great signing. I think we're going to see an elevated level of Josh Palmer compared to the Chargers, and the defense definitely was our weak point. It's kind of been our weak point over the last couple of years too. So it's gonna. I have very good. I forgot what I was going to say. Not very
expectations.
I was thinking the other word, but yeah, I have very high expectations for what the Bills defense is going to look like this year, unlike what we did in the last year. And I said last year, the defense is going to struggle. Josh Allen's going to have to be Superman, which proved to be pretty true. Not entirely, but it's nice to see us addressing the defensive needs.
Couple more offensive ones real quick. Re-sign, I guess, Darrington Evans. It says we signed him, but I think he was on the team last year. He might have been on practice squad, cut, whatever. Again, depth piece at the running back position. Ty Johnson, big signing, 2
Huge.
years, $5 million contract. Got him for the low, $2.5 million a year for basically our third down back, our kind of gadget back, receiving back. And also a guy that could start games if needed, man. He played in some elevated roles throughout the year when there was injuries, so it's good to have him back. Reggie Gilliam, kind of a staple in the run blocking schemes that we have. At fullback, signed a 1 year, $2 million contract, and then on the 11th, there was that yesterday. Probably the biggest signing so far was Joey Bosa, 1 year, $12.6 million contract. Signing with Buffalo, coming over again from the Chargers. Thank you, Chargers, for giving us a couple players here. I'm pumped about this, but I just don't want this to turn into another Von Miller thing where we overhype this, we get very excited, and we just give our hopes up. Basically, the guy is coming off of an injury last year, I believe. He hasn't played a full season since 2021. Last year he started 9 games, played in 14. The year before 5, played in 9. The year before that 4, played in 5 games. So the last 3 years not the greatest, but before that the guy was almost averaging double-digit sacks a year, a pass rushing menace out there. So again, am I expecting him to get 10 sacks this season with the Bills? No, I'm not going to tamper my expectations here, but it would be nice if he can get around that 8 to 10 mark, I think is what would be realistic if he can play all 17 games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guy,
16 games.
17 games.
Well, the bye week
is 18 weeks in the NFL season, or 17
All right,
games.
I'm done. Anyways, go ahead.
It's all right. Yeah, no, I like Joey Bosa, but like you said, the injuries have been a problem. Injuries aside, he's a stud. I think you're worried about the Von Miller experience. Well, I think that plays into the fact that we only signed him to a 1-year deal. It's like we obviously went to him and said, "Hey, we're going to pay you some decent money. We're going to do a 1-year deal. Stay healthy. You earn it. Maybe we bring him back and sign him for a couple more years, another 3 or 4 year contract. He's only going to be 30 going into the season, or somewhere throughout the season. I think he's only 29 years old as of today. We still have about 6 months until the season actually starts. So I'm excited, but like you said, you got to temper expectations, because we might not get the Joey Bosa that we saw back in 2021, 2020.
Yeah, he's been around for a while. This is his 9th, well, be his 10th year in the NFL. He was actually on the Chargers back when they were the San Diego Chargers.
Yeah,
he was on the team the last year before they moved to LA.
Yeah, I think he was the first Bosa drafted. I don't think his brother was drafted.
Nick.
Nick.
I thought Nick was older, but I don't know.
Well, look it up.
We could look it up.
All right.
That's why we got laptops, right?
That's right.
Nick Bosa, age.
He's
27,
he's
so yeah, he's a little younger. So.
All right. I was right.
You were right.
Thank you.
You were right. What else we got here? Today, Larry Ogunjobi. That's it.
Ogunjobi. There you go.
Defensive end. 1-year deal, $8.3 million, coming to Buffalo. Where's he coming from, Jeff?
I think he's coming from the Washington Commanders. I could be wrong. Might be the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's one of those teams, though. Yeah, but I think that's a huge depth piece for us.
Steelers.
Yep, Steelers. I don't think he's going to be a starter. I think he's going to be one of those fill-ins. But we really do a lot of plug and play with our defense. Mm-hmm. I think the person that had the highest amount of play time only had like 70% or 80%. I could be way off on those, but it wasn't anywhere near 100%. Right. We don't have somebody like Max Crosby playing 100% of downs. We rotate in and out so many guys. We scheme things on the defense, and we have so many options that we can use depending on the scenario, game flow, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not worried about, like, I know we signed him for about $8 million, but that's probably the going rate for him. I just think he's probably a depth piece, and we're going to make it work.
Yeah, he bounced around the AFC North quite a bit here. Started his career 2017 with the Browns, went to the Bengals for a year in 21, and then he's been on the Steelers since 22. So it's pretty funny. He's bounced around every team almost, besides the Ravens in that division. Last year, 12 games started, 15 games played. He had 1.5 sacks, 41 combined tackles, 5 tackle for losses, 7 QB hits. The guy over his career has been averaging about 11 hits, QB hits a year, 8 tackle for losses, and about 3.8 sacks. So it was kind of one of his worst years, I think, last year, leaving Pittsburgh. But like you said, I'm pretty sure this is just going to be more of a depth piece here. Maybe sub him in on different schemes on defense, but I don't think he'll be a bona fide starter right off the bat. Moving on to Damar Hamlin being re-signed for a 1-year extension here. Doesn't say the dollar amount as of yet. I don't know if you got that intel.
No, I didn't see anything on
I didn't see anything.
Kind
of surprised. I thought that, last year was the last year that we'd have to see or hear about Damar Hamlin, and mainstream media have to bring up this is the guy that died on the field again. But no, he's going to stick with the Bills for one more year. He played a lot of minutes last year due to injuries in the secondary. And I will admit, I don't think he was terrible in those games. However, I still don't think he's a bona fide starter in the league, possibly on a third of NFL teams that are really desperate. But for the Bills, I would like to get an upgrade in that position. So we'll see. I believe the intentions are, this is a 1-year contract. This is just a depth piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we talked about it, at the end of the season. Damar Hamlin's a little bit too slow for the safety position. I would like to get faster at safety. He got burnt quite a bit in the playoffs, especially against the Chiefs. It's just one of those things. He's always going to be tied to Buffalo. I'm okay with the signing. I'm assuming the dollar amount's probably a couple million, $3 million, whatever it is. We're going to be stuck with Damar Hamlin, whether he's on the Bills or whether he's not, because if he went to a different team, we're just going to hear about, this is the guy that played for the Bills. So either way, we're going to end up hearing about, his situation. Thankfully he recovered fully from that, and, it was unfortunate, but like you said, though, I think he actually played pretty well last year, had his first interception, had a couple more after that. He played well, but didn't play well enough in the playoffs when we needed him to the most.
Yeah. And the last couple signings here, Ed Oliver, we converted, so actually not a signing, sorry, converted $12.58 million of his 2025 salary into a signing bonus, which basically frees up a little over $10 million of cap space. Huge.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean here? We're making these moves. Where's the money coming from? That was always the concern before free agency started. And, this is huge to see some guys, big name guys too, willing to work with the wheel and deal here and basically free up some cap space. So that's huge. And then the last signing here was Derek Forrest, who I had to pull up because I didn't know anything about him. He's coming over from the Commanders.
That's the one at Washington.
4 years in Washington. Last year he only started in 1 game, but he played in 10. I think his best year was back in 22, where he actually had 4 interceptions, 9 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery in that year. 88 tackles on the year as well, and a tackle for loss. So definitely his best out of the 4 years he's been there in Washington. Looks like he's kind of digressed into more of a backup role since then. But again, I'm happy with these defensive pieces that we're picking up here in free agency, secondary, pass rushers. This is what we were really looking for. The linebacker core, it's great that we got Bosa, depending on where we're going to put him, if he's going to play linebacker. He used to be a DN when he came into the league, moving him around. But the secondary and the pass rushing were the kind of the key points of interest here that we needed to work on. And it looks like that's immediately what the Bills have tried to sign and go after.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's probably just going to be another depth piece. It's just going to be one of those things where, based off the signings that we had going into the free agents, I really think we're going to use the draft as to assess our secondary. The deep threat. I think we're going to go young, fast cornerbacks, safeties in the draft this year. So everything that we make in the secondary is probably going to be, it's probably going to be a depth piece and just plug and play, see what you got, and we'll go from there and we'll figure it out. But yeah, I really have no idea who this guy, Derek Forrest, is. Actually, it's the position that I'm seeing on my laptop says SAF. I have no idea what that means.
SAF.
I only see it's a safety, but I was like, SAF, does that mean strong as fuck? Like, I don't fucking I have no idea. It's SAF. That's the only person on this fucking list that I see that's like, I don't know what an SAF is.
So that's basically because they don't have, he didn't play a specific position. They probably moved him around, is my guess. All right, let's, that's all I have for the Bills. I like what we're doing so far.
Did you miss the trade?
What, did that happen right now?
It happened like an hour ago.
Yeah, because it's not pulling up on my NFL transactions here unless
former first round pick Kaiir Elam is no longer on the Buffalo Bills. He got traded to the Dallas Cowboys along with a 2026 draft or a 6th round pick this year's draft for the Cowboys, 5th round pick this year, and next year's 7th round pick. So
are you sure?
Yeah, because it was on the Bills website, and your heat's still on, by the way.
Yeah, well,
that's all right
at this point. Okay, 3 hours ago. So this is hilarious because I'm on NFL. I'm on Sports Track, Spot Track, which usually has up-to-date transactions, and it includes signings, releases, trades, and more. And the latest I have is on the Derek Forrest, so it doesn't even have the trade in here. But
maybe it's not official yet.
No,
but the Bills announced it, so it's got to be.
I got 3 hours ago. Cowboys acquire Elam from the Bills. Linebacker Murray from the Titans. Elam throws a 3-team trade, it looks like, maybe.
I think they just made 2 separate trades.
Okay, yeah. So the Cowboys acquired linebacker Kenneth Murray Jr., 7th-round pick from the Titans for a 6th round. And they got Kaiir Elam and a 6th round from the Bills for a 5th-round pick this year and a 7th rounder in 2026. Good riddance. See you later. That's huge, dude. I'm excited about that. I've never been more excited about a player being released or traded in a while. Like, this was big. This was a guy that came in with high expectations and then got kind of leapfrogged on the depth chart by an undrafted rookie in Christian Benford. And Benford basically outplayed him for his job since coming to the team.
Yeah, well, Benford was drafted in the 6th round in the same draft.
Okay, I thought he was undrafted.
No, he was 6th round draft pick. And, yeah, I had high expectations for him, too. He looked great coming out of college. I don't know if it was a system thing that just didn't fit here in Buffalo. And everything I've heard, because I know I listened to WGR on the way home from work, and a lot of the guys were saying that were on the radio were saying, like, yeah, he's a good dude. He took getting, basically benched or jumped in the depth chart. He took it well. He's a great locker room guy. Always had high spirits. So I do hope that he has a new change. It does him well. Maybe it didn't fit our system. And sometimes you hit and sometimes you miss. And that was a huge miss. But thankfully, we also drafted Christian Benford, who was probably supposed to be a backup, and he outplayed him, and he's been absolutely phenomenal since then. So. Not good riddance to Kaiir Elam. It's just one of those things that we no longer have to question what went wrong with Kaiir Elam. That's going to be the Cowboys' problem now. So, but we'll see what we can do in the draft to really help these positions in safety and cornerback.
Right on. Okay, now I think we're officially done.
I think so.
I'll let you lead this, man. What's a big trade that stands out to you in the NFL so far, or signing? So far with it's just happened. What, like when did free agency start? Like a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
The legal tampering quote unquote, started Monday at noon. The actual new league year started at 4 p.m. today. So all of these transactions that happened weren't technically official until 4 p.m. Why does it feel like it's been going
on for like a week now?
Because everybody's talking. Because there were signings that were coming out at 12:01 on Monday. It's like, how did you get a deal done in a minute? They should just start the season right after the day after the Super Bowl. Be like, all right, go for it. Do what you got to do at this point. I'm I'm trying to think back to some of the bigger ones.
I mean, Devontae Adams is one that sticks out for me. Going to the Rams, they released Cooper Kupp, I think, today.
Yeah.
Which I think we had a feeling that
they were trying to trade him.
Time before he was gone. Yeah, they wanted to trade him, but the Adams one's big.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like what's actually kind of more shocking. I think was a couple weeks ago was the trade of Deebo Samuel. It almost feels like the 49ers are kind of in like they're stripping down the team and they're in rebuild or reload mode, because this is a team that just made the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and I think 2 or 3 years before that as well. And now all of a sudden they're getting rid of these pieces. It's just like Deebo Samuel is gone. They got to pay Brock Purdy. Christian McCaffrey is hurt. Brandon Ayuk, I think, wants a trade. Not Travis Kelce. George Kittle's getting old. Mm-hmm. Their offensive line was Trent Williams. He's getting old. He got a huge contract. So it's weird that I think the most shocking thing that is, as a team whole, is the 49ers. The signing of Myles Garrett is actually probably my biggest shock, because that dude wrote a letter to the city of Cleveland, like, thanks for everything. I'm not playing for the team anymore. I want to trade. And then the team said, no, we're not trading you. We're not even going to field offers for you. And everything I've heard is that they weren't fielding any offers. So I guess at this point, and then they come around, it's like, well, how's $40 million a year sound? And he's like, you know what? I take it all back. I'm going to stay. So I think that was kind of the most shocking. I thought for sure he was going to stand his ground and say, no, I want to play for a contender. I'm out. Because the Cleveland Browns are far from a contender. Yeah, they made the playoffs a couple of years ago with Joe Flacco. And yeah, Myles Garrett, it's going to get you probably 15 sacks a year, every year at this point. But the Browns defense still got burnt everywhere else. If you tie up Myles Garrett, their defense is, Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
So I think that was my biggest shock of a signing, because I didn't expect that to come. I thought he was going to pull, who was the guy that played for the Steelers that held out, the running back? I can't think of his name. Le'Veon Bell. Oh, yeah. Le'Veon Bell. I thought he was going to pull Le'Veon Bell and then eventually get his way and get traded or get cut, whatever.
Yeah, that was kind of a shocker too. Him staying with the team. I mean, they did restructure Deshaun Watson's contract on March 6th, so them being able to have the money to re-sign this guy, give him the extension, that probably helped. They also traded for Kenny Pickett from the Eagles today.
Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett.
Exactly. For Dorian Thompson-Robinson and a fifth. Kind of makes sense though, because the backup quarterback role for the Browns seems to be like you're essentially a starter, because you know that either Watson is going to suck, get hurt, or get in legal trouble. So there's 3 different avenues here for you to be a backup on the Browns and find your way into a starting position. And unfortunately, DTR, I think that's all he's really going to be, as a bona fide backup. Pickett was starting games for the Steelers. Now, they weren't all pretty, but he was a bona fide starter at a time not too long ago. And he is a Super Bowl champ. So I think the trade makes sense. Hurts is obviously, unless something drastic happens or an injury, he's not coming off, right? Whereas Kenny Pickett, would like to compete for a job, and if he is thrown into a game, I think he would be a better backup than DTR anyways, and give the Browns an actual chance. So,
yeah, and honestly, he might not even be the starter, because they have the number 2 overall pick. So depending on what the Titans do, if they don't draft a quarterback, they might go get Cam Ward, and Cam Ward he's separating himself above Shedeur Sanders at this point, going into the draft as probably the bona fide number 1 quarterback coming into this year's draft. But I don't think any of these quarterbacks coming into the draft are guys that are going to start right away and make a difference. Jaden Daniels was put in the right position at the right time. Caleb Williams, I still think, is going to be a good quarterback, and we could talk about what they've done. They've got 4 new starters on their offensive line, and I think the offensive line is actually going to be pretty good. But Cleveland doesn't have anything at this point. And if you draft Cam Ward, I don't think he would have gone ahead of either Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels last year. Actually, I don't even think I would have taken him over Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy.
Well, Bo Nix, I mean, you could say quietly or not quietly. He had a good year last year.
I'd say quietly. It's Denver. Nobody pays attention to them.
Yeah, I think for that fact, you're right. But the comparisons, especially when the Bills ended up playing them in the wild card game, was this is the mini Josh Allen. He's got all the attributes of Josh Allen. He had some similar stats as Josh in certain categories, and he's got a lot of potential as a young quarterback. I mean, I think the Broncos kind of hit a home run with that one. What's his face? John Elway's still kicking himself though for not drafting Josh Allen, and he's doing whatever he can to get the look-alike or the replacement. I think.
Who did they draft? Who did they draft over him?
I don't remember.
Me either. I don't think it was anybody.
What year did we draft Josh?
2017?
2017
or 18?
2017 NFL draft Broncos. That's gonna give me something maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to be completely honest. It might have been 2018.
It might be 2018.
Yeah.
Josh Allen.
You don't have to talk as you're spelling it.
I know I do got to talk though. Yeah, it was 2018.
Okay, I thought so. Yeah, Mahomes is 2017.
Josh Rosen went before. I remember that, but I don't think that was.
Yeah, Josh Rosen's not even in the NFL anymore. That's insane.
And that was when I remember everybody thought that he was the better Josh, and we were all upset when we got.
I was one of those. I thought for sure we were not.
Oh, they took Bradley Chubb, defensive end,
which ended up getting traded to the Dolphins.
The Dolphins
is now kind of stalling out due to injuries. So,
yeah.
I mean, everybody goes back to these. It's all what if? What if we knew what Josh Allen was going to be? Because there were a lot of people that questioned, Josh Allen's potential in the NFL in general, just because he had no recruits coming out. He had no offers coming out of high school. He had to email like 400 different colleges. Ended up going to Wyoming. There was the only team that gave him a chance, and then he ended up having a pretty solid career in Wyoming. He could throw the ball, but he had accuracy issues coming out of the NFL, and that's what kind of threw people away. Mm-hmm. But thankfully, the Buffalo Bills and Brandon Beane, they saw something. They said we're going to take a chance because I think Tyrod Taylor at the time, it just wasn't working out. He did get us out of the playoff slump after 17 years, but yeah. But it's in hindsight. Hindsight's 2020, right? Everybody probably nobody would have drafted Baker Mayfield first overall if they knew that he was going to bounce around from 4 different teams.
Yeah, if it took this long for him to finally kind of, be in his own, he would have probably fell to the second round.
But he went to a bad organization in Cleveland because they're on their like 600th quarterback in the last 10 years. Then he went to Carolina, and that was a bad situation. They didn't have anything. I don't even know if he played with Christian McCaffrey. He might have gotten traded before that. And then he went to the Rams for 2 games, ended up winning a game against the Raiders within 2 days. He got traded on Tuesday, played on Thursday, won a game, and then he finally found his footing in Tampa Bay. And I think everything was perfect for there. And he took a quarterback-friendly contract too, which is what you need in the NFL these days if you're not going to command Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes type of money.
Mm-hmm. Kind of staying in the division a little bit. I mean, we talked about Matt Collins getting signed by the Patriots. Sucks. Wish we could have kept him, but they paid him a lot more than the Bills were ready to pay. I think it was 2-year, $10 million. Mm-hmm. So a little bit more than I think. I'm not going to say that he was worth it, but I think it's just more than the Bills can afford at this point when they can pick up a guy like Josh Palmer for about half the price, right?
Well, they paid Josh Palmer more, didn't they?
Wait. Yeah, maybe I'm getting my.
Because he got 2 years, $10.8 million guaranteed. Matt Collins did, and I think Josh Palmer.
Right, $336. So
that's $12 million a year. So
correct. So we paid him. We paid him more, but all right,
Josh Palmer is a better wide receiver. Let's be honest.
I think he's a more established receiver. Because Matt Collins basically bouncing around from team to team. not really being the guy ever. And this was his best year just because of how Josh operates with spreading the ball. Otherwise, yeah, man, he's been kind of like a wide receiver 3 and 4 on most teams that he's been on, Mac Hollins. That being said, great guy. I think he did great personality, good for the team, high energy type of player, and I'm happy for him. Sucks that he's got to go to one of our rivals.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what stings the most is he went to the Patriots. I loved his energy. I loved the hype guy that he was. Obviously, we were probably way lower per year what we wanted to pay him. So he went and took the money, and that's it. The NFL's a business. They're not here to make friends and keep everybody happy. They got to do what's best for business. So I don't blame
what
him.
They paid him. It was 2.5. So he basically got double what he was paid with the 1 year that he was on the Bills. I'm pretty sure it was 2.5. I think we looked it up last night. And I think the Bills thought they could probably just re-sign him for the same price, maybe a little bit more, but it wouldn't have been a long term. Maybe that was the other thing. They didn't want to go past a year just because there's a lot of what ifs this year, and they knew that they had to pay Josh too long term. What I do like is the Miami Dolphins signing Zach Wilson to a 1-year contract. Great, dude.
Yeah,
Take
have fun.
that, dude. I hope he plays, and I hope the Bills play him when. I hope Tua. Not that I want to wish injuries on anybody, but
Right.
if it's a game that Tua's not in, I would love to play against Zach Wilson on the Miami Dolphins and just flatten this dude out one time. I think that dude was saved from a very good defense on the Jets when we had to play him, and he made us look stupid a couple times. But it was never really Zach Wilson. That team made us look stupid, but he was the winning quarterback.
Yeah, that's what sucks.
So I would love to just flatten this dude out and just beat the Dolphins by 40 one time if he's starting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but to be fair though, that's probably the best backup they've had in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, at least he was drafted higher.
Brissett. Wasn't Brissett on the team for a little bit?
No, I don't think so.
thought
Jacoby
Brissett.
Brissett. He was on the Colts. He was on the Patriots. He was on the
Patriots.
Browns.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where he's at now, but he's been around the league for a while. But Mike White definitely, or not with Mike White, Zach Wilson definitely the better backup.
Yeah, he was on the Dolphins 1 year. It's 2021.
Oh, all right. Well, you're right then. Hey, look at you. You got
Pulled
one
that
right.
one out of my ass.
Yeah, you did.
Sometimes I get these right. The Jets signing Justin Fields. I mean,
That's huge. I think that's a fresh start for him. He's going to run into the same issues that he had in Chicago, where he doesn't have an offensive line to protect him. And he's probably going to win a couple games because he's going to run for 100 yards a game in some games where he can't get the protection he needs. And
a quarterback like Justin Fields, where, I mean, we basically call him Lamar Jackson light, make me more nervous than quarterbacks that can throw in this day and age because, and again, this is a problem that the Bills are trying to address with the pass rush and containing the quarterback for this year, but historically we've had trouble against these mobile quarterbacks and trying to contain them from getting outside the pocket and picking up big yards. Fields will get his. It's not like we're going to hold the guy to 10 yards in a game, but try to limit that is the best we can do. I think he's going to have a good year with the Jets. If the Jets get back to the defense that they had 2 years ago, and you get a Justin Fields who looked like he was on the trajectory up this past year in the 4 games, started 4 games for the Steelers.
I think he started 6. He went 4-2.
Okay, the 6 games that he started with the Steelers where he looked really good, won 4 games for them. He didn't have the craziest offensive stats, but he was taking care of the ball, and they were winning games with the guy. You plug that into a Jets team with, a good defense. I think that the Jets this year will now, on paper, look better than the Jets last year with Aaron Rodgers coming off a fucking Achilles injury. So, I don't know. Call me crazy.
Well, I got to give Aaron Rodgers a little bit of slack because he started out real shaky, but he threw for over 3,000 yards, had 25 touchdowns or 28 touchdowns, only had 11 interceptions. There's a lot of teams that would kill for that type of quarterback play. But the offense just didn't click. I mean, they lost to the Broncos 10-9 at one point because they couldn't score a touchdown. So there was a lot of issues going on with the Jets last year between the head coach getting fired, the offensive coordinator getting fired.
Bless you, lad.
Excuse me, I got the mute on that. Hopefully your ears didn't pick it up, but it probably did.
It probably did.
And, the Jets, for whatever reason, ever since Robert Saleh left, the defense was just pure dog shit. But they got Sauce Gardner, who's one of the best in the league. So they got Garrett Wilson, great running back, or great wide receiver. They've got great running backs, too. Brees Hall was kind of a shell of himself. And they had that Allen running back. They tried splitting time between them, and that didn't work out. Braylon Allen. I knew it was Allen. Something. I got the last name right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they're gonna look a little bit better, but it's gonna come down to the same thing. What are you gonna do for the offensive line? Because the offensive line has been atrocious for that team for years.
Yeah, I agree.
And they haven't even signed anybody on the
only thing was, I know that Aaron finished the year pretty strong, and actually his numbers weren't terrible. It was more so, I'm saying, the hype, I think. Coming off that injury, I didn't believe that they were going to. I think I was more hyped the year before if I was a Jets fan.
Oh, for sure.
And then the injury happens, and it's like, wow, we wasted a year. We don't know what this is going to happen. You can be excited, but you're 40-something years old, coming off an Achilles. There's not much to be hopeful for.
Right.
Yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers. We know what he used to do, but a guy that old coming off an injury like that, there's not the excitement versus Justin Fields coming off arguably the most exciting year, and it was only 6 games that he started. Plugging him into that team, I think that the hype is a little bit more real if I was a Jets fan for this year.
Yeah. No, I would agree. We can talk about his former team, segue off of Justin Fields leaving
Bears
Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Steelers made a shocking trade. The Pittsburgh Steelers do not do this type of stuff. They don't trade for players. They like the homegrown, draft them, groom them, build them up. Grooming is probably the wrong word. But they traded for DK Metcalf from the Seahawks, and then he agreed on a 5-year, $150 million contract. I take back what I said about Myles Garrett. That's probably more shocking than anything because the Steelers aren't known to make trades like that. They signed cornerback Darius Slay for a year for $10 million, and they got Kenneth Gainwell back again. That's really all I see big from the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're still waiting on them to make a decision on quarterback because now they have George Pickens and DK Metcalf, 2 great wide receivers. I think DK bumps up to the number 1. Pickens can be the number 2. And then you got to get your quarterback, and we'll see what actually happens. Excuse me, because I think at this point it's either going to be we're bringing in Aaron Rodgers or we're re-signing Russell Wilson because those are the 2 quarterbacks I think that are left that don't have homes.
Yeah, the Aaron. Let's first start with the DK Metcalf. Definitely shocking, uncharacteristic for the Steelers. However, I think it's a great pickup.
Yeah,
you can't be mad at any team that's going to win the DK Metcalf lottery, I guess. People are saying, the Bills should have got him. I don't know if we were ready to pay that kind of money for a receiver yet, especially because is Keon Coleman DK Metcalf? No. Could he be DK Metcalf? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. However, we got our big body receiver that can win the jump ball situations. We got a guy that can play that role. And I think that's what the Bills are looking at anyways. We got a guy that fits this profile. He's young. If we can groom him and go down the right trajectory here and his career goes in the right direction, who knows? He can be maybe a DK light, right? But we got the guy that can play the DK role already. We got Khalil Shakir. We still got Curtis Samuel signed for 2 more years. We got these smaller guys. It was more so, can we get another route runner on the team because we lacked getting separation was really the void we needed to fill. So I think DK realistically was never, I say all that to say, I don't think he was realistically ever coming to the Bills. It would have been nice, but I don't think that was going to happen money-wise and just roster-wise. Him going to the Steelers, though, makes perfect sense, needing a guy that basically a sure-handed receiver, which they thought that they had in George Pickens, but honestly, the more that I see George Pickens play, the more inconsistent he's become.
Yeah.
Where he's going to make the big plays, and you're going, wow, how the hell did he make that catch? One-handed disc, behind the back, between the legs, off the backboard, slam dunk. Different sport, folks. But then you got a guy like DK comes in who's consistent and can do plays like that almost all the time the ball's thrown to him versus George Pickens, who will do that once in a while, and then he'll just have a disappearing act and be gone some games. So I like the signing. And I think they lost Najee Harris, too, recently. I think he got signed to,
Najee Harris went to the Chargers.
The Chargers. So
Took me a second.
the running back situation there is kind of up in the air. So they're filling in these pieces one at a time right now. We still don't even know if Russell Wilson's going to stay on a team.
Well, I think they're waiting for Aaron Rodgers to make a decision if he wants to keep playing or not. Aaron Rodgers hasn't said anything since being released by the Jets. I think they would rather have Aaron Rodgers over Russell Wilson, which I think is kind of wrong at that point, I guess you could say. I think I would rather Russell Wilson just because he's like 4 or 5 years younger than him. But Aaron Rodgers at his peak was much better than Russell Wilson was at his peak. And this brings me back to, I asked you this last season, is Russell Wilson playing himself out of the Hall of Fame? You said no. I'm still staying steadfast that I think he's playing himself out of the Hall of Fame, especially because if there's not a team that wants him this year, he's had 3 down years basically since he left the Seahawks. He left the Seahawks. It wasn't great. It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know if Russell Wilson is going to end up making the Hall of Fame because he's only got the 1 Super Bowl. And nowadays, because there's so many people in the Hall of Fame that you need to have higher requirements to get in. And Eli Manning is only going to get in because he has 2, and he beat the two he won were against the Patriots, which was a dynasty for 20 years. That's the only reason he's going to get in. I mean, he's probably a 50-50 player in the regular season.
Yeah, I still think he's still in.
It's definitely not going to be a first ballot. It might not even be like 2-3 years. He's going to have to wait a long time, I think.
I'll be honest. Last year was his worst year completion percentage wise. I mean, the Broncos' first year, he didn't have a good completion percentage either, but he still threw for 3,500 yards, man.
And that was at his worst. That was when we were talking about how was he ever going to pass how many toilets he had in his house for touchdowns to toilet ratio. Because it was probably like week 14 or 15. We were tracking his touchdowns because he had more toilets in his house than he did touchdowns.
Yeah, that first year with the Broncos was a disappointment. He threw for 20 yards, but, well, in most recent years, a ton of yards, I guess, because he hasn't been in the 4,000 club since the Seahawks days, second to last year, the Seahawks. But that was one of his worst QBRs, actually, with an 84 since ever, so his career. 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 3,500 yards, and a 60 completion percentage. That bounced up the second year with the Broncos, had a much better year, improved the completion percentage, improved his QBR, improved his touchdown to interception ratio. He threw for 500 less yards, but he was protecting the ball a little bit more, and he did throw for 10 more touchdowns. So then that basically got him to get paid and go to the Steelers, which last year, if he starts those 6 games, I mean, Jesus, add 1 to 2 more touchdowns. So what's that, 12, 10? I'd go 10 more touchdowns, and you're looking at 26 touchdowns again, around there, and add a couple more picks. He's basically got identical stats to the last year in the Broncos.
Last year in the Broncos was the first year with Sean Payton, and they butted heads. They were not the same. I remember when he went to the Broncos, he asked for an office in the front office. They gave him that. Sean Payton comes in, says, no, get the fuck out of my office, or the office, whatever. And him and Sean Payton just weren't on the same page. So it's just one of those things that Russell Wilson, I think he's going to have to play for about 4 more years, probably on the same team, get to the playoffs, win a playoff game. It just depends on where he's going to be at this point, because I don't think it's going to be the Steelers if Aaron Rodgers decides to play and he goes there. And then that leaves the Giants, who could potentially pick up one of the other two.
Yeah, the Aaron Rodgers carousel is kind of interesting here.
Can he just retire? Can he go to the Vikings, start a couple games, and then retire,
and just
so he
complete
can just
Brett Favre trilogy?
yeah, just figure that out.
I think honestly, it all depends on JJ McCarthy and his health. Because if he's healthy, ready to go, I think they're just going to start the guy. I don't even think there's a QB competition. I'll be honest with you. I think they want to start him. I think they're anxious to start him.
Yeah, probably.
They'll come out and say the right things. Oh, we're going to compete, and he's going to play for his job. He's going to start. And I don't think if they know that now, they would bring in Rodgers because he like you said, he wants to mentor, but I don't think he would be okay backing up. So he at least wants to go somewhere where he's got a chance to back up. If he knows from the beginning, hey, this kid's going to be hurt for at least 5 games, I got a 5-game cushion to ball out. And if I ball out, there it doesn't matter if he comes back. It's my job to lose. But since the health is up in the air, we don't know what's going on with that injury as of yet. There's too many questions. I think that Rodgers, unless he gets signed by another team, he won't go there. But or he will go there if he doesn't get signed by another team. But they'd have to wait it out. It would be, who knows? It could be an in-season signing at that point.
Right.
And, Rodgers, I think he takes care of his body as best as he can. So I don't think he'll be out of shape by the time, hey, if he gets the call, we're going to need you on the Browns. We're going to need you on the Raiders. We're going to need you. I don't think he would go to those teams. But at this point in his career, he's looking for a playoff contender team, which the Vikings check that box, and somebody that's got potential that he can ride off kind of in the sunset on a positive note. You don't want to go to the Raiders, man. He's not going to a team that's trying to build or rebuild.
He's not going to go to the Raiders because they traded for Geno Smith.
Well, I'm just saying as an example. Right. He doesn't want to go to a team like that that's trying to rebuild at this time.
Yeah.
So if for Rodgers, it's winning team or nothing, I think, for him. And unfortunately, I think he'll be okay with, unfortunately, I'm saying unfortunately, but I think he'll be okay with just retiring. Yeah. If he can't find the right fit, he's fine with it.
Yeah, we can stay in that division real quick. And DeAndre Hopkins signed a 1-year, $6 million deal with the Baltimore Ravens. I think that's actually a pretty good signing. DeAndre Hopkins, not the DeAndre Hopkins of old, had some up and down moments with the Chiefs this year. Got a garbage time touchdown in the Super Bowl. I think that's a good fit, honestly. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman. As long as he's okay with being the number 3 option there, I think, maybe 2A, 2B type of things. I like the DeAndre Hopkins signing with the Ravens there. It's just another weapon they have. You obviously got to worry about, Lamar, Derrick Henry, and Zay Flowers really came into his own last year until he got hurt just before playoffs. So DeAndre Hopkins just another weapon for Lamar Jackson. It's just going to help him out.
Yeah, I was. I'm trying to pull up his stats from last year. Kind of split here between 2 teams. 6 games with the Titans and 10 games with the Ravens here. Or I'm sorry, the Chiefs. He only had 5 total touchdowns. 4 of those came with the Chiefs. I don't think he was that much of an impact last year. I think he had about 600 yards off of what we're looking at here, about 56 receptions and 5 touchdowns. Definitely not the guy from the Houston year. Sorry, I was having a brain fart. I was like, what team
Houston, Arizona.
Yeah, the Houston. Even Arizona, the first couple of years, he had 100 catches that first year with Arizona. And then it kind of went down a year. And then it went back up to 96. And then his first year with Tennessee even had 130. Oh, I'm sorry, that's targets. I'm looking at the wrong number for a second. He had 75 catches his first year with the Titans. Even then, he was more involved, at least with the game plan. 7 touchdowns on a year. But he's in the back half of his career. 32. He'll be 33 years old going into the 25 season. I don't know how much of an impact he's really going to be, but you're right. The more I think about this, I think he's going to be the 3rd option. I just don't see them moving away from Bateman like that because I think he's had a positive trajectory on his career, and I think he's earned the right to be the number 2 if they want to keep him. Now, if they want to trade for somebody else, that could possibly bump up Hopkins, but I think at this point in his career, he's kind of the 3rd option on that team. But good signing for the Ravens at a depth piece because they were kind of banged up in that department. Zay missed some games last year. Bateman missed some games, I believe, earlier in the year. And they just had a bunch of no-name guys that I could pay you $1,000. You won't be able to name one of them. So, yeah, good signing for the Ravens.
Absolutely. And I'm just kind of scrolling through here. See, the Houston Texans, I'm not really sure what they're doing here. They traded for wide receiver Christian Kirk, safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles. They signed, let's see here, Braxton Berrios, Justin Watson, both wide receivers.
Yep.
I'm not really sure what's going on there. But they also traded away Laramie Tunsil, which that was kind of shocking to me. And I just had where he went, and I lost it.
Braxton Berrios, Derek Burnett,
and Laramie Tunsil. Where in the world
Justin Watson
is Laramie
coming
Tunsil?
over from the Chiefs. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Good pickup.
That's a
He's
good
on the
pickup,
edge of his career. He's on the end of his career.
Who else do we got here? Mario Edwards. Nickname and Zach Thomas.
Laramie Tunsil go to Washington? Washington is where Laramie Tunsil went.
Okay, Shaq Mason designated to post.
Yes, Laramie Tunsil.
Release.
Okay. Yeah, Laramie Tunsil went to Washington Commanders. So they traded, but the Texans, like, you already had issues up front on your offensive line. It wasn't the greatest, and the Texans kind of suffered from that, and it showed throughout the entire season. And then you trade away probably one of the best left tackles in the game. I know he had his issues going into the draft, and he got traded from Miami to the Texans and yada, yada, yada. But I think he was probably one of the centerpieces to the Texans going forward, but it feels like the Texans are going backwards after they had a phenomenal rookie year.
Who? CJ? Stroud?
Yeah, CJ Stroud. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, last year was a weird year for them. There was a lot of hype because of that offense on paper. Nico, Tank, and then you bring in Diggs. Joe Mixon, and then, like you said, Stroud coming off a good year. It's like, okay, this offense should be unstoppable. And then they were just plagued with injury after injury after injury, and two of their guys ended up being out for the season. The other guy missed significant time, and really it was Joe Mixon holding that team together because you found out that CJ didn't have anybody to really throw to for basically most of the year. There was a guy out of the lineup at every game. So this year, I don't think they re-signed. Did they re-sign Diggs?
They did not re-sign Diggs.
Has he been signed anywhere?
No.
Coming off, what do you have, ACL?
Yep, ACL injury.
Good luck. That dude ain't getting signed. I don't think he's going to get picked up.
Might not.
I think it's going to be tough, dude, to put that dude on a team.
Well, because he's got the history. He was in Minnesota, was a diva, got traded, came to Buffalo, was great for a couple of years, turned into a diva, traded, hurt. Like, all right, well, teams are going to look at this, be like, all right, now you're going to be injury prone because you got this ACL injury, which could nag. We don't even know when you're going to be ready to come back to play from that. Not to mention, you're kind of a bitch because the way you acted in Buffalo and Minnesota, it's like, we don't really want this attitude if things don't go your way. Yeah, you want 20 targets a game? No, because you're not that type of wide receiver anymore. I truly think that's going to come down to teams being like, listen, unless you shape up a little bit, we don't really want you. There's other wide receivers that are younger. They're not as injury prone. It's just one of those things where I'm not sure that he gets signed to a team. If he does, it's probably for league minimum. He might get brought back to Houston. I might even be wrong on this. He might have gotten signed back by somewhere, but I haven't seen anything on Stephon Diggs because I've seen Jason Fitz. I just saw one of his podcasts. He said he should go back to Buffalo, and I said absolutely not. No, we don't want him here. We don't need him. We proved that we didn't need him. There was this back and forth between Diggs and the fans. Like, Diggs thought Josh Allen needed him more than he needed Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, we'll see. And then Josh Allen wins the MVP the following season. So we proved that point that we didn't need. Yeah, obviously Josh Allen got better because of Stephon Diggs, but Josh Allen didn't need Diggs. He didn't need that distraction of him bitching. I want more targets. I want more catches. I want my stats up. Like all this other bullshit. So it is what it is at this point. We'll see what they do for where he goes going forward.
So I just pulled up, and I don't know if this means they are releasing him or they will release him if they don't get a trade deal. Rodgers designated post June 1st release by the
Oh,
Jets.
okay. So that's why he can't go anywhere. That's why he's not signed.
So either I don't know what that means if they have to release him by after June 1st, or if they could still shop, but if they don't, they're just telling us
Oh, okay.
he's going to be released.
That makes sense.
I think either way, he's not going to be a Jet next
Right.
year. I mean, they brought in Fields, and he's going to start, and they were kind of looking at the future at this point.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't really have anything else that's
All
big.
right.
Like I said, I'm just kind of scrolling through here, trying to see anything that pops out. The Packers, they upgraded their offensive guard. Aaron Banks comes over from the 49ers on 4 years, 77 millions.
Yeah,
I think that's great for Jordan Love. Indianapolis Colts, they signed Daniel Jones to a 1 year, $14 million. That's a fresh start for him. That's $14 million, I think, is starter money, bottom end starter money. So we'll see what they do going forward. Anthony Richardson's been so up and down, quit on his team last year. I think this is going to be one of those things. It's going to be a quarterback competition going into the new year, and it's like I said, it's going to be one of those things where we'll see what Anthony Richardson can do. Other than that, the Detroit Lions signed cornerback DJ Reed, which is huge for 3 years, $48 million. I like that. That boosts up their defense a little bit, which was already really good. Not really seeing anything here. The Cowboys signed Solomon Thomas. I think that's probably their biggest signing, other than what the trades. Really, I'm not really seeing anything that's really jumping out of here. I guess at this point, we're waiting to see what the Cincinnati Bengals do. They've got 3 players that want to get signed long-term to big deals. T. Higgins is one of them. He got franchise tagged, so that kind of sucks. And then Trey Hendrickson, who just led the league last year in sacks at 14.5, he got permission to shop. Get shopped for a trade. But he also wants $30 million plus a year. There's not really a lot of teams that are going to pony up for that because it's the salary cap. There's a lot of people that got to get paid, and then not Chase Brown. Why can't I think of Chase's first name?
Chase Young?
No, not Chase Young. The wide receiver Chase.
Oh, Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase. Thank you. Drawing a fucking blank. It's late. I've been up since 3 a.m. Jamar Chase wants a big deal too. Their owner said, or their GM or their owner said last weekend, we're going to make him the highest non-paid quarterback. Well, then fucking do it, because you're wasted time. And now Myles Garrett signs the highest non-paid quarterback deal, $40 million. So you got to pay him at least $40 million a year. At that point, it's like you're basically shooting yourself in the foot, because I don't think you're paying Jamar Chase $40 million a year.
This is interesting. I just sorted it by running backs. I can run through that actually real quick too. So Raheem Mostert released by the Dolphins, frees up $3 million in cap space. Clyde Edwards-Helaire signing with the New Orleans on the reserve. It says signing as a reserve or future contract. Saquon, we know, signed a 2-year, $41 million contract extension. Jamal Williams was released by the Saints, probably in lieu of the Edwards-Helaire signing. Gus Edwards released, and then they ended up signing Najee Harris. Elijah Mitchell for the 49ers was released and then signed by the Chiefs. Samaje Perine, Bengals, signed to a 2-year extension. Actually, all the freaking... So the 49ers here, They re-signed Patrick Taylor to a 1 year, and they re-signed Jordan Mason to a 1 year deal.
That's
Obviously,
insurance. That's
insurance because you don't know what's going on with C-Mac.
Yep.
Javonte Williams signing with the Cowboys, 1 year deal. A lot of 1 year deals here. Miles Sanders was released by the Panthers. Kenneth Gainwell signed a 1 year deal to the Steelers. So there's I guess, a kind of a replacement, but not really. He's not a starter. So I'm wondering if they're going to end up starting Jalen Warren, if he's earned the starting role there. Or, I mean, it's a running back by committee thing anyways. It's always been. Yeah. But I wonder if they're going to go with him as the kind of the bell cow.
Could be.
Khalil Herbert signed a 1 year contract with Indy, and then recently A.J. Dillon signing a contract with Philly. So, backup role. Too bad. He didn't even play all of last year because of an injury for the Packers. And I think Aaron Jones actually had a really good year, and I think they actually re-signed him, if I'm not mistaken, too. Not Aaron Jones, sorry. Aaron Jones did get brought back for the Vikings. Josh Jacobs had an extremely good year last year.
Josh Jacobs.
I'm like, Aaron Jones. What year is it? So the A.J. Dillon signing, I guess, makes sense, being like, hey, well, you're not going to play here, but you're probably not going to play there either now, but you coming off of an injury, we're going to ship you out, we're going to get somebody cheaper.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of moves, a lot to digest, probably way more than we could probably squeeze into an hour and a half here. We've probably already been talking for well over an hour.
I actually don't even know because I don't think there's a timer on this thing. So
hey, we'll find out as soon as we hit stop recording or stop streaming, whatever it is at this point.
But next week we're gonna get together. I want to do a little bit of NCAA talk, getting in preparation for the tournament. Maybe go through a mock bracket even of sorts.
Down for that.
I will be in Cleveland that weekend for the first round. We're going to see a couple games on Friday. So it'll be cool to get out a podcast either the Thursday or Wednesday before that. And we'll talk some college basketball, which has never been done before on the history of the podcast.
Hey, we're no longer just an NFL-style podcast, a Buffalo Bills-only podcast. We're moving the needle around here. We're getting everything going.
Real quick before we part ways here, anything with Sabres before we?
Dylan Cousins got traded last week. He got traded to Ottawa for 2 players.
See you later.
And then the dude goes and scores a goal and 2 assists.
They always do that
he's going for a playoff team. We got Josh Norris and another player in return. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. The Sabres are pretty much they are out of the playoffs at this point. So 14 years in a row.
Have they been officially eliminated?
They might as well be. They got 19 games left. They're last. They're last in the East. They're not making the fucking playoff.
They're 10 points behind the Red Wings, who they're playing tonight, and they're up 1-0. Tage Thompson has a goal.
Hey, all right. Shout out Tage Thompson, who probably doesn't want to be here either.
Yeah. Here's the thing with the Sabres. Something positive has to happen again to tease these guys to thinking there's going to be a change or, the grass is greener on the other side. Next year I'll be better. Listen, if the Sabres don't win at least 50% of the remaining games, mark my word, there's going to be some turnover next year.
Oh, for sure. Kevin Adams should already be fired. He shouldn't even finish the season.
Wow.
But Terry Pegula doesn't give a shit about the Sabres. He only cares about the Bills. But thanks to Terry Pegula, we have a hockey team because I think if anybody else would have bought the team, they probably would have moved them.
True.
That's the only thing I'm thankful for.
I'd rather have a shitty hockey team than no hockey team at this point.
That's kind of where I'm feeling at this point because, at least we have a hockey team. Yeah, they suck, but we can go to hockey games and we can suffer through that. At least the Bills are good. And the Bandits. Go Bandits. They made a bunch of trades, but I have not paid attention to the Bandits at all this year. So
true. I haven't either. They're still good, though. Right?
Yeah, they're good. They're great. They're going for back-to-back-to-back. 3-peat.
God bless them. Well, we got one winning franchise.
Yep.
Well, the Bills too, but championship franchise. Yep. All right, guys. With that being said, I'm Mikey D.
I'm going to cut you off real quick.
Yeah.
This is our first real live stream.
Oh, yeah.
For those of you that don't watch the live stream or don't watch it on YouTube, if you get the podcast on Spotify and you are hearing this after the fact, give us a subscription or a subscribe. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Give us a like. Beers and Buffalo Pod on YouTube. The Instagram stalled out. Kind of dropped the ball on that since the season ended, but Instagram is still up. Beers and Buffalo Podcast there. Beers and Buffalo Podcast on Facebook as well. The few and far between listeners that we do have, we do appreciate every single one of you. We are going to get this figured out with the sound and the quality and all that fun stuff.
And I think it'll be a little bit more informal until football season picks back up again.
We're in our off season.
You know, there's no set schedule. It might be every week. It might be every other week. It might be once a month. I don't know. There's going to just be impromptu live streams, which, if that's the importance, if you are a subscriber, you're going to get the notifications when we go live. I'll try to post it on the Facebook page as well, pre and post recording. But as long as you're a subscriber, you're just going to get the notification on your phone anyways, and you can watch us streaming on YouTube.
Absolutely. And thank you for all the listeners we do have.
Thanks, guys. All right. Now, with that being said, I'm Mikey D.
I'm Jeff.
We out.
Go Bills.